Sari, you already did the Sari, and now Datavento, that's another provider. So there are many data providers that also expand to all sorts of markets. So basically, you can get, you will be able to get from Datavento, for instance, all of the markets in the Chicago exchange, the CME, basically. So all the futures information of crypto derivatives and also the stock market and everything else, basically. So
there was also some ideas of fetching data based on trigger words, if it's sentimentally bullish or bearish, what are our articles saying, and so on.
Yeah. But essentially, API maps is the mechanism of Superalgos to allow users to connect to any open API on the internet and fetch information from it.
but also now it's already done for permission, the APIs also.
Yeah. So if you have an account on a data provider, you can also access information that is allowed to you to access there. Any question about this? APIs? API maps? That's how we call it. I know it's a little bit a lot of stuff, and that's how it is. It's not a small system. What else? Questions? Don't be afraid to ask questions, even if you got lost somewhere.
So, are there any plans to commercialize any sub-part of this whole Superalgos ecosystem?
No, because there is no head either. Nobody has the right to say this is my part and I'm going to exploit it in this way. It's a true collaboration between people. Carl himself spent time contributing data mines and API maps and part of the code. So nobody owns it in a way that can say I'm going to go and sell this part for something. But at the same time, the system is open if you want to use it for running your own business. Okay? Like if you are using Linux for running your business. You don't have to go and ask the Linux Foundation or anybody, just go and do it. You run your server with Linux, and if what you're doing is under the license, then it's okay. So, yeah. So
and we are actually interested in business use cases. So people like him was just mentioning about building a marketplace of strategies and stuff like that, and people maybe subscribing to consume signals and stuff like that. We are very much interested in developing the infrastructure that is required for running those businesses too. So what Luis mentioned about the network and the signals and all of that stuff is already available, and it's part of the infrastructure that you would need to run a business, for instance, selling intelligence or whatever, or even the data that you process with the platform. That's also valuable. There is a business to do in that regard also. But maybe this is a good point also to talk about the collective business model of the project.
okay. You
So
talk
I
about the
can just give it a go. Superalgos as an open source project, as an open source crypto project, developed this collective business model around the token, basically. I already mentioned in the morning that the token of the project is distributed among contributors. So basically, the token is used as an incentive, and all the people that have contributed to the project and is contributing to the project are invested in the token of the project. So if at some point in time the token acquires value, because the project becomes relevant at a large scale, at the mainstream scale, let's say, then all of the people that have contributed to the project will have tokens that will have a value. So they are basically, everyone is invested in the token. And the way things work is that how do we get to distribute the token among contributors? There are many decisions that have to be made about who deserves what kind of rewards for the work that has been done, right? And because the project has the vocation of being a decentralized project, we knew from very early on that we didn't want the founders, for instance, to be the arbiters of who would get what incentives. So instead of doing that kind of model where there is a head in the project, a centralized head in the project that decides who gets what incentives, we created the governance system that could distribute the decision-making process among all the community of contributors, basically. So what we did is we created yet another layer of infrastructure built in the platform. So the governance system is not in a blockchain, on a smart contract, and on an immutable form. It's built into the platform, actually. And you can access the governance system simply by loading a workspace. The platform works with different workspaces. When you load the governance system workspace, then you can interact with all the data structures that have to do with governing the project. I want to make one clarification. The governance system doesn't make decisions on what gets added to the project. So there is no gatekeeping in terms of what features or functionality is going to be coded. The project is actually permissionless in that regard. We are committed to merging all of the code that produce value for the project and that people want to use, basically. So the governance system is mostly about figuring out a way on how to distribute the incentives. So the question is, if you contribute some code, or Carl contributes a data mine with a few indicators, or someone contributes a strategy, for instance, that people can use for free, because everything that is contributed to the project becomes open source under the same license of the project, which is the Apache 2 license. So the problem that the governance system solves is how to give rewards to everyone in the community. And the way it works is that there are different programs within the governance system. One of the programs allows basically the community to allocate, well, let me go back a minute. The project has a budget of rewards in the form of tokens that it can distribute every month, right? That is fixed because the whole economy of the token is fixed, is capped. There are a certain amount of tokens that are going to be distributed, and once those tokens are distributed, there are no more tokens. So the question is that we have a budget every month, and the project will basically distribute the token along 30 years, a span of 30 years, basically. So the question of the governance system goes to how we distribute the budget of the project every month, right? So the main governance program is about where we want to allocate the rewards. Okay, so we have different activities in the project going on. We have people contributing code. We have people contributing, for instance, the machine learning testing of the models, and a lot more stuff. On the marketing side of things, I had some questions about how we're going to do, or how we're doing marketing and business development and networking and these kinds of meetups, and everything that you do that adds value to the project is deemed as a contribution that is worth of rewards in tokens. So we have different pools defined in the governance system, and the community votes on how to allocate the rewards to each of these pools. And then every month we have a distribution process, a distribution event. Before the distribution event starts, each contributor publishes a blog post, a Medium blog post, explaining the contributions that he made for the project during the month. Right? So it's a small report where, for instance, Carl says, this month I contributed these indicators. He briefly explains what the indicators are about and how to find them in the code base, in the system, so that everyone can use them. And then the community basically reads the reports, and each individual participant decides how much or what percentage of the tokens should go to each contributor. And then all the information is aggregated, and basically the rewards are distributed according to the decision of the whole community. So that is more or less how this collective business model works. Basically, everything that you do for the project is rewarded according to the value that the community perceives that you have added with your contributions. So that is the bulk of the thing, and then there are some other specific governance programs, for instance, to incentivize referrals to the project, people bringing people to the project. Then we also incentivize, for instance, offering support for users in the platform. There's a group of community moderators in the Telegram groups and in Discord, and the community votes how many tokens to give to these guys that are offering support online all the time. What other problems do we have? On the top of my mind.
Covered most of it.
There is for instance, some of these programs are based on the community voting, but some other programs are algorithmical. For instance, the distribution of the rewards for the testing of cases is algorithmic. It depends on how much testing you've done with your own machines. So that's in answer to your question about who sponsors all this, basically. If you contribute computing power to the crowdsourcing of machine learning, then you get tokens from the project. That's more or less the model. Please.
This is a business model, right? Who would invest in your tokens in the future?
Okay, that question leads to a different set of questions, which is basically what is the use case for the token, right? What will the token be used for, or what can the token be used for? Because that creates a reason for buying the token, right?
So why should I pay money to this project, right? Because it's open source, open project. I can use it for free, right? And I'm an investor. If I want to use this project, which is already free, right?
Exactly.
Why should I pay money?
Okay, let's get into that. Everything that we have discussed about the project so far is mostly about the infrastructure that is available for guys like you, traders, that want to automate the trading, right? But the project has a much larger vision than providing an infrastructure, an open source infrastructure for automating trading. And actually there are many different ideas and lines that we are exploring and implementing already. What we covered about the infrastructure of the network, right? And the broadcasting of signals, that will be turned into a business that will require the token for one very specific aspect. Imagine that you have signals providers within the project that are broadcasting signals through these networks, right? The people that if the broadcaster decides to broadcast the signal for free so that anyone can consume it, then the broadcaster will get tokens from the project as an incentive for doing that, because that creates value for the community of users that are not necessarily traders, right? There is people that don't know how to trade. There are people that are not technical enough to use the platform because it's a complex system, basically. So what we're going to do is we're going to expand the user base of the project, not just to this very niche market of algorithmic traders, which is a small market, but we want to include everyone else in, for instance, all crypto users basically that want to trade, but they don't know how to. So how are we going to do that? By offering them to follow broadcasters of signals, so signal providers, to copy the trades of the bots of the experts, basically. So, coming to your question, how does the value, how does the token create the value? Imagine that you have a mature state of this aspect of the project, where you have millions of people following hundreds of signal providers, for instance. When you have to distribute those signals over the network, you have to find a way to order the way in which you are going to send the signals to each of the individuals that are subscribing to that service, right? So the order in which people will get the signals will depend on the amount of tokens that they have in their balance in their profile. So basically, if you have no tokens, then you will get the signals last. So there will be probably 1 million people getting the signal before you. That means that 1 million people will be placing their orders at the exchange before the one that has no tokens. So if you have 1 token, then you will be getting the signal ahead of all the people that have no tokens. So with only 1 token, you already gain an advantage, because you will be getting the signal before the people that have 0 tokens. And then just the game theory plays on and on. If you have 2, you get the signal before the guy that wants 1. And if you have the most tokens, you will get the signal first. And that is an advantage, an obvious advantage, because basically